Hey everyone, Shannon here. I wanted to make a short video about a frequently asked question about alkaline water machines. Now, alkaline water machines are fantastic. I own one, and if they weren't so ugly to put on the counter, I would use it all the time. I have a Kangen machine. My particular Kangen machine goes up to about 9.5. They have them go up to 11 or 12, maybe, I don't know. But I wanted to go over some quick facts. In fact, there's two things you need to understand about alkaline water machines, and then we'll get into the third one of why alkaline water machines are different than phenomenal. This comes up all the time. They're very similar, but at the same time, it's like comparing apples and oranges because they're radically different at the same time. So here's two things you need to understand first. When you're talking about water, you're talking about alkaline, or you're talking about acid, you're talking about pH. pH stands for parts or percentage hydrogen. So all you're talking about really is hydrogen, and I need you to understand this, and it's actually really simple. Here's a quick, easy illustration. If you had a pure glass of water, so it's like distilled, perfect 7 pH water, what that means is in that water, at least theoretically, all of the molecules are a big oxygen with 2 little hydrogens. So it's perfect H2O. There's no more hydrogens, it's 2 to 1. But there's no more hydrogens than there are oxygens, so it's right in the middle. Now, if you took something, let's say a cap full of vinegar, and poured in there something acidic, and then your pH meter would read it as acidic, what that means is that now in that water there's more hydrogens than there are oxygens, and it means it's acid. The reason why that's such a big deal is because when there's more hydrogens, hydrogens have a different personality than oxygens. If you took that same water and you added, let's say, baking soda and salt and alkaline minerals to it, then it would go the other way. So it would overcome all those hydrogens, and then you would have extra oxygens. So let me first explain why this is important. Why should we care? Well, an oxygen, for example, an oxygen is a great big molecule, and it has what's called 2 valences. A valence is where other molecules hook together. So we've all seen diagrams of these big molecules, and they just look like gobbledygook, but where they're all connected together, those are called valences. And usually how it's attracted is it's either has an electron or it's missing an electron. So in the case of an oxygen, big molecule, 2 valences, and an oxygen has 2 electrons to give away. That's the beauty of it. Now hydrogen, actually a tiny little molecule, but it's missing an electron. So they come together, you have an electron to give away, it's missing an electron, they bind, it becomes water, covers the planet, life wouldn't be possible without it. It's fantastic. But when you get to the alkaline side, that means you have free electrons because there's extra oxygens in there. And when you get things that are acid, we constantly hear that acid is not good for us. The reason why acid is not good for us is because it literally steals the energy that we live on. We are electrical beings. Look, my nerves are telling my fingers to move. That's all electricity. Our brains function on electricity. And so, for example, something like hydrogenated oils. I don't want to switch subjects here, but we know that hydrogenated oils are unhealthy, but it's oil that's been hydrogenated or hydrogenated. So it's an acid oil that's not natural, and our body has a hard time assimilating it and has to give up electrons to neutralize it. That's why it's not healthy for us. Whereas in the same token, anything on the alkaline side has free electrons that is very assimilatable by the human body. So that's the first part. Now let's move on to the second one, because this one's pretty cool. How alkaline water machines work, like a Kangen machine or any of the others, is there's metal plates, and the current flowing from plate to plate is either positive or negative. So the water flows through and it gets split into 2 groups. Now, of course, in water, even though you can't see them, there's what's called TDS, or total dissolved solids. These dissolved solids either pick up electrons. So just picture this in your mind. You have these microscopic little particles. They're going through, and you're either shoving electrons onto them or you're stealing the electrons away, depending on which plates they go through. Well, think about this. If you had a particle and you shoved thousands of extra electrons onto it, that charge is going to be stronger than the electrical charge of an oxygen. So it's going to pull off a hydrogen. The hydrogen is going to jump to that electron, but it's going to leave this oxygen as what's called a hydroxide. In other words, it's missing one of the hydrogens. When you take a pH meter and you put it in the water, it can't read all of those hydrogens because they're bound to that tiny little particle. So the pH meter reads it as incredibly alkaline. And you go, it's alkaline water. Yes and no, it's not alkaline water because, and I'll tell you why, if you take that water and you put it in a container, let's say a steel container, so it's not touching sunshine, there's no air getting in or out or anything else, and you leave it for, I think, a maximum of 48 hours, and you check the pH again, it's going to be wherever it was when it started, before it went through the alkaline water machine. So think about that. Hydrogens aren't going to come out of space, oxygens aren't going to come out of space, they can't get to it. Where did they come from? The answer is they were always there, they never left. They were bound to the particles. It's the exact same thing with acid water on an alkaline water machine. So those machines, they split the water, one side is acid, one side is alkaline, but truly, neither is acid, neither is alkaline. It's an electrical charge that's binding either the hydrogens or the oxygens, and the water is exactly the same. So it's not actually acid or alkaline water. Now, I'm not dogging alkaline water machines. They do definitely have their purpose, and their purpose, the benefit you get from an alkaline water machine is that you get, at least on the alkaline side, you literally get free electrons that are very assimilatable to the human body. When you drink it down, those electrons jump out and literally feed your body. They give you an electrical charge. Totally healthy, not a thing wrong with it, but just don't confuse it with true alkalinity because it's not. So the third thing I wanted to go through real quick, you probably already know this, but how Phenomenal is made. Phenomenal is made with three things. I don't need to go into this in detail, but when you heat water, of course things move faster. When you put water under a magnetic charge, if it's under a negative field or a positive field, it changes the valence on the molecule. So if you jerk it back and forth, you can literally change those valences and kind of disrupt the molecule. And then if you add alkaline minerals, those hydrogens will jump off and go to those alkaline minerals. If you filter out those minerals, you're left with what's called a hydroxide. Once again, it's a big oxygen, one hydrogen, but you're missing a hydrogen over here. It's a very, very alkaline mineral, and that's what Phenomenal is. So that's how it's made. We filter those minerals off, and they're gone. So, for example, with Phenomenal, it could sit on the shelf for 10 years. It's not going to change pH. There's no way for it to, because hydrogens can't get in there, oxygens can't get in there. The only way for it to change pH is to be open to the air, because the air is slightly acidic. It's the carbon dioxide, and it will, air is slightly oxygen, but it will still find, the water is more alkaline than the air. It will find acids from the air and it will neutralize itself. And that happens very slowly, but that's the only way for it to change. So with Phenomenal, you also get that electrical charge, but you literally are binding hydrogen. In other words, when you drink it down, that valence that's empty, that hydrogen that's missing, it will be found in your body, because of course humans we're very, very good at getting rid of acidity, but acidity tends to pile up with humans from stress, from alcohol, from sugars, from all the yummy things in life that we get into, and so we sort of pile up with acidity. The reason Phenomenal gives you such a boost of energy and makes you feel so good is because it's literally taking hydrogen from your body, it's binding, it's becoming water again, and you get rid of it. So you get the benefit of the electrical charge, and you get the benefit of literally removing hydrogen. Something very cool you can do is you can add, so if you run your water through a Kangen machine, don't add minerals to it. Some of them have a way of being able to add minerals to them so they work better. If you don't add minerals to it, so in other words, you have pure filtered water, you make alkaline water, and then add your Phenomenal to it, you're getting twice the kick out of that water. That is some powerful, powerful stuff. Super healthy. So if you have an alkaline water machine, by all means use it, and just don't get the two confused. So there you go, alkaline water machines and Phenomenal.